All right. Anyway, so yeah, the last time I listened to the thing, I made some comments that were inaccurate. I don't care. Um,
Which comments were not
You meant
correct?
the comments that portrayed this book in a better light than it actually is?
no, like I was nitpicking basically. Again, I don't care. And some of the stuff I was confused about was because the prose is unreadable. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's just a little disclaimer for anybody who thinks that my points are invalid because my points are completely valid and this is still the worst book of all time. All right, so chapter
I,
2. Yes.
Popka, just a quick question.
All right.
If Mahouka would have a spin-off novel, would the spin-off novel be a worse novel than Mahouka if it's like the usual spin-off novel stuff of visiting the beach, etc., maybe killing some Chinese because that's what Mahouka dudes do,
Look, I can't even imagine what Tatsuya would do in his free time.
not having emotions?
Well,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
well,
I
Well,
like
don't
how it
know.
goes from
how
going to the beach
accomplished
to killing
Tatsuya
some
is, he couldn't
Chinese.
possibly have free time.
Yeah, he's too busy building cold fusion.
Either
And
that, or he's too
teaching
busy
people how to
fucking his
fly.
sister.
Yeah.
Or he's
I
too
mean, if
busy
they went to
fucking
the
his
beach,
sister.
all it would be is Miyuki getting mad at people for dressing like sluts and like you see
No,
someone
no,
walk
no,
by in a
no, they are
bathing
not
suit.
supposed to dress like sluts. But don't
No,
worry,
but
even
they're at
if
the
they dress
beach.
like
They're
sluts,
at beach.
just
They can
fine.
dress however they want.
It's okay for Tatsuya, tips Fedora.
Tatsuya. Yeah, it would all be just the same line of just describing the girls' swimsuits in immense detail and then saying it never entered Tatsuya's mind.
Okay, let's
Uh,
let's continue
all
our
right,
plot.
chapter fucking 2. He awoke on the second day of high school in the same way as the first. He may have advanced to high school, but it wasn't as though the Earth's rotational period had changed. All right.
Okay.
Whatever.
Hate that sentence. I just hate it. I don't have any like comment or anything. I just hate that sentence.
It speaks for itself.
He splashed a bit of water on his face. He would clean it more thoroughly again later. And wash your face, Tatsuya. Jesus Christ. And change it to his usual outfit. When he went down to the dining room, he found that Miyuki had already started making breakfast. Good morning, Miyuki. You're up earlier than usual today. Dawn was just breaking, and the spring sun had yet to... How early did they get up? It was still far too early to go to school, of course. School started at 8 o'clock sharp, and it took them 30 minutes to get to school. They just needed to leave at 7:30. Making breakfast, eating it, cleaning up, even all that would end up leaving them with more than an hour of free time. Do they wake up at like 4 in the morning every day? Like, what the... Like, why?
When I was younger, I mean, I used to live in a rural countryside,
Uh-huh.
so I actually had to get up at 6 a.m. or
Yeah,
maybe
but these are
earlier when I
wealthy...
got
These
to
are like
school for 8 a.m.
wealthy aristocrats here.
He could fly to fucking school.
Yeah.
No, he can fly because he hasn't shown the plebs
In
yet.
fact, without even leaving his house, he could nuke the school and everyone in it. Good morning, Tatsuya. She held out a cup with fresh juice in it. Here you go. Thank you. After politely thanking her, he downed it in one gulp and placed it back into her outstretched hand. Miyuki had a perfect grasp of how long it took Tatsuya to breathe. Whoa. This chapter's creepy.
Why?
It's a little different from the first chapter. This is kind of weird. I don't like this. As she turned back toward the kitchen counter, he was about to tell her he'd return shortly, but Miyuki suddenly stopped working and turned to him again. Tatsuya, I was thinking that perhaps I could go with you this morning. As she finished her sentence, she held up a basket containing sandwiches to him. She hadn't started making breakfast a minute ago. She must have actually just finished it. I don't mind, but in your uniform? Tatsuya asked, glancing between the sweats he was wearing to the school uniform that appeared from underneath her apron. I
The
still haven't
lady.
reported my promotion to sensei, so... And besides, I can no longer keep up with your training, answered Miyuki. I don't know what they're talking about. She just... So she had changed it to her uniform this early so she could go show it off to the man. All right, you don't need to do the same thing for training as I do, but if that's the case, I'm sure Master will be happy. I just hope he's not so happy he loses his self. Oh, so this is the ninja that trains Tatsuya. Just protect me if that happens, okay? His sister cutely shut one eye and a natural smile. Okay, it's called winking. Uh, yeah.
You sure it's the right word for that?
I mean, it's better than cutely shut one eye. The brisk early morning air was still chilly as she hovered up the sloping... Why? Okay, it says the brisk morning air was still chilly as she hovered up the sloping road, but for some reason that I can't fathom, hovered up is in italics. Her long
Maybe
hair...
it's supposed to signify that they have like hoverboards, so it's the future.
No. I mean, I don't... Maybe. Her long hair and skirt hem fluttering in the breeze. Miyuki was dashing up the long, gentle... I thought she was hovering up the road. Alright, whatever. Without kicking off at all in defiance of the laws of gravity. She was pushing 60 kilometers per hour. Are they riding on something?
Maybe they're
No,
flying.
hoverboards, man.
Maybe
Wait,
they're flying.
are they walking? Tatsuya ran beside her. He, though jogging, but his... He though was jogging, but his stride was more than 10 meters long. What the fuck? What the hell is going on? I'm trying to visualize what's going on here.
This is
So-
probably one of the good scenes they cut out because we
I
plebs
really
can't be
don't.
bothered.
I really cannot. Okay, so Miyuki is like just levitating and hurtling up this road at 60 kilometers per hour, and Tatsuya is next to her running, but like every lump is like every like he's running, but every step is like the biggest leap anyone ever took.
Yep.
Like this is really strange. I don't even know what's going on here. Shall I slow my pace a bit? Asked Miyuki, swiveling around and sliding up back. Tatsuya's running at 60 kilometers per hour right now.
He's Jesus. I'm
he's
surprised he
Superman.
doesn't hover.
Uphill. Shall I slow my pace a bit? Asked Miyuki, swiveling around and sliding up backward on one foot. No, it wouldn't be training then, answered Tatsuya, not out of breath, but clearly growing fatigued. I didn't even know he could grow fatigued. Like, frankly, running at 60 kilometers per hour and not getting tired is less a feat of endurance than taking 150 times the pain of a dead person.
Popka, I have a question.
What?
Isn't hovering over this long of a distance?
Popka
In
sounds like a
theory,
teacher who's
considered
really
flying.
annoyed at that one student.
What?
What was the question?
Isn't this basically considered flying to some extent, what Miyuki is doing here? I thought
I really have no idea what was going on.
this is directly contradicting what is later established.
I really don't know what's going on. I don't know if she's like on some kind of vehicle or what. Like, it doesn't say. It's very unclear. It says their shoes didn't have some kind of propulsion mechanism inside or anything. Needless to say, their speed was a product of magic. That's just a really poorly constructed sentence. Miyuki was using magic to slow the gravitational acceleration being applied to her, as well as... So she is flying. She's using magic to fly.
Oh,
Tatsuya was using magic to amplify the acceleration, well, to fall with style, I guess. Tatsuya is the one who really invented anti-gravity. She's just slowing the gravitational acceleration. Tatsuya, this is why she's a better magician than him, because he can't move the little block of wood more than, like, whatever. Like, but she's able to move herself at 60 kilometers per hour. So apparently, Tatsuya's like, I have no practical magic skills, but right here it says, Tatsuya's using magic to amplify the acceleration and deceleration created by kicking off the road, as well as magic to suppress his movement in the vertical direction so he wouldn't launch himself off the ground. So he has no practical magic skills according to himself and according to this school's evaluation, but he can use magic to run at 60 kilometers per hour.
But that's obviously not practical because why would you run at 60 kilometers per hour?
I
Get a
guess
grip on
it's not-
reality, man.
Well, both were simple compound techniques to control movement and acceleration. Miyuki was one thing, but because of their simplicity, even Tatsuya, who was only able to become a Course 2 student, was able to continuously... All right, let's be real. He invents the anti-gravity magic. Like, he doesn't have to... All right. In this case, it was difficult to say for sure who had it harder, Miyuki in her inline skates or Tatsuya running under his own power. Obviously it's Tatsuya, right? Like everything's harder for Tatsuya.
Why does she have inline skates now?
I mean, he had to... Look, this isn't a very descriptive book.
It just
I
occurred to me
mean-
that she just suddenly had inline skates.
Yeah.
Considering how long it takes for them apparently in the series to like break down how each bit of magic works. It's
Yeah, they
weird
gotta
how-
be like, oh yeah, if I want to move an egg across this table, I need to get down at the quantum level and explain like every single basic
Yeah.
string theory to you. Like, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares.
But some of this is like so passive or like nondescript. Like we don't even know how Miyuki's like flying or whatever still.
I mean, in the last chapter, the way they describe people is by saying like what was it? It was some horrible sentence. Some horrible sentence that was clearly a roundabout way of implying that some lady had big tits. All right. At a glance, Miyuki looked like she had it easier since her inline skates were lessening her physical exertion. Since she wasn't using her own feet, though, she needed to use magic to control her movement vector in every direction. Tatsuya, on the other hand, was determining his direction of movement by actually running. Tatsuya needed to keep casting the spell with every step, while Miyuki... who cares? Who cares? This
You
isn't
care.
important. All right, I'm skipping the next two sentences here.
Oh, why is that?
Because they say the exact same thing again.
Great. Oh, great.
Just in case you missed it the first time.
Their destination was about 10 minutes from their house. Well, at the speed at which they were running. Miyuki's not running. You made that very, very clear. Sitting atop a small hill. In a word, it was a temple. Why did they have to say in a word? All right. But those who gathered there seemed like a far cry from priests, monks, or novices. If you needed a good term for them, they were pretty close to warrior monks. So monks, like you said before, even though that wasn't a good word for them. Girls, and especially young girls, would normally be too scared to come near the temple's atmosphere. Of course, women. Miyuki, though, passed right on through without hesitation on her inline skates. So we get it. She's wearing inline skates. It was strange to see her being so bold since she was so well-mannered all the time. The owner, however, had said, "I don't mind" so many times that it had started to get annoying, so everyone was already used to it. I don't really know what they were trying to explain there. Tatsuya wasn't there, but not because he couldn't keep pace with Miyuki. He was in the middle of a violent welcome that burst on him as soon as he entered the temple gate. This welcome was essentially just practice, though. When he started coming to this temple, he would practice against one senior member at a time. At this point, though, instead of such a round-robin format, they would just throw 20 beginner pupils at him all at once. Miyuki stopped at the front garden of the main temple, worried, and turned back toward her brother, who was now buried in the crowd. She heard a bright voice from behind her. "Ah, Miyuki, it's been quite a while." Her senses were very sharp, so she had been suitably cautious about the experience repeating itself, but because of that, it shocked her even more. What? What is she talking about? All right. She slowly came to realize the futility of it, but she still couldn't help but protest. "Sensei, I have asked you many times not to conceal yourself and sneak up on me." Yeah, wouldn't it have helped for like that sentence to come first and then the sentence like explaining her thoughts about it to come second, so that I wouldn't
That's
be
my
so confused?
That's my thought for like most of this so far. Like all these details
that's
should have
actually
come
just
earlier.
how this book is written.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's bizarre.
like especially with the inline skates, it's like they're running up this hill and they don't explain that she's wearing inline skates, and then after it's already confusing, they say like 5 times that she's wearing fucking inline skates.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, don't sneak up on you. You make some pretty tough requests yourself, Miyuki. Just don't sneak up on people. It's rude. All right, like come on. I'm a shinobi after all. Sneaking up on people is our nature. With his neatly trimmed hair and yukata dyed in black, the man looked appropriate for the situation. His actual age aside, his looks and the air he gave off were anything but old. So I guess he actually is old, but he was just wandering about, but he exuded a vulgarity that was difficult to describe. And though he wore priestly clothing, he was indescribably suspicious. Well, he's a ninja, so... You can't get employed as a ninja anymore. I wish you would reform that nature of yours. But even Miyuki's serious protest... So this is, again, the same thing they did in the first chapter where somebody speaks and then after that it says who it was that spoke. So Miyuki is the one who just said that. I didn't know that when I read that sentence because there's nothing that indicates that it was her. So Miyuki's serious protest was answered by tongue-clicking and hand-waving. "I'm no ninja. They're snobs, riddled with misunderstandings. I'm a historically accurate shinobi. It's not an occupation. It's a tradition."
Shut the fuck up.
Historically accurate.
Says he was, in any case, vulgar. "I'm aware that you are historically accurate. That's why I find it strange. Sensei, why are you so... frivolous?" Miyuki didn't say the word. She had already learned it. It would do her no good. So this is hard to convey reading this aloud. The word frivolous is not in the quotation marks. It like trails off before the end of the quotation marks and then it says frivolous. Because she didn't actually say it, I guess. "This fake priest," well, on paper he was a real priest. So that what makes him a fake priest?
then
Was
he's
named-
officially a real priest.
I mean, he's a real shinobi, right?
Priest,
oh no, this
ninja,
says
monk.
he's a self-styled shinobi. The more general term for which was ninjutsu user. As he himself was insisting, he passed down old forms of magic. He was clearly different from the pre-modern spies who excelled only in physical abilities.
you know, Popka,
Sen-
I need to make a confession.
What?
You see, I'm not a reader. I am a man who is literate, also known as someone who reads, but I'm not a reader.
Exactly.
Well, all right. Magic. Well, I don't really know what this means right here. Magic was an object of science. When the masses fully realized that it was more than pure fiction, people learned that ninjutsu too was no mere classical martial art and a system of spy techniques. The truly secret parts were a variety of magic. So in this universe, like the Naruto type ninjas are real. The
Okay.
uncanny techniques that had been thought to be false, made to be thought of as false, were actually closer to the true form of ninjutsu. Isn't ninjutsu not really a thing? Isn't that like an extremely broad category of like talents? Of course, as was the case with other magical systems, not everything in Legends was true. They discovered that ninjutsu transformations were simply combinations of illusions and high-speed movement. Shadow cloning techniques were also varieties of this trick. Actual cloning, transformation, transmutation were defined as impossible by modern magic. But, alright. But immortality is not. Yakumo Kokonoe, whom Miyuki called sensei and Tatsuya called master, was a successor of the old magic, the true art of ninjutsu passed down for a very long time. It would have been nice if that was the only sentence on this page explaining who this guy is, instead of the entire page being about it. But even leaving aside his priestly attire, which also seemed contrived, it's so judgmental, his own behavior seemed quite far away from historically accurate. Is that the first tie uniform? Yes, yesterday was the entrance ceremony. I see. Yes, very nice. I thought I would tell you I started school. Such a fresh, brand new uniform, so clean and tidy, and yet it has this irresistible allure. So this uniform is partially responsible for half of the students being like brutally discriminated against every year. It is like a flower bud about to bloom, a newborn tender sprout blossoming forth. Oh no. All right. I guess I have to say this. Just give me a second.
The disgust building up. Just.
Yes, it is Moe. This is Moe.
Is
He went on and on.
actual
getting more
word now
excited. Yeah,
on the page?
that's what it says.
Oh boy.
He went on and on, getting more excited, and kept inching toward Miyuki as she edged backward. Jesus. But then suddenly he whipped around, squatted, and raised his left hand above his head. There was a smack on his arm as his arm blocked a downward chop. Wow, that is probably the most confusing way they could have said that.
Yeah.
Master, you're scaring Miyuki. Could you please calm down a little? Not bad, Tatsuya. You took me by surprise. Keeping Tatsuya's right hand busy with his left, Yakumo fired a right straight at him. Tatsuya broke the joint lock by waving his right hand up, then back down, then took... This is
This
not
sounds like
really
shit.
suited. Yeah, this is not suited to a literary format.
No.
All right. He didn't fight it. He rolled forward. His foot flew toward the back of Tatsuya's head. Tatsuya quickly dodged it with a twist. I don't like this. Like, why didn't he just make it a comment? Well, probably because he can't draw, but... The two came apart. There was an audible exhalation from the spectators. A ring had formed face off the side. Tatsuya and Yakumo went in again. Miyuki wasn't the only one who's... These are all, like, one-sentence paragraphs. Like, 5 of them at the bottom of the page here.
Huh.
Isn't the point of a paragraph that it's, grouping sentences?
I don't really know. I guess they're trying to, like, establish the rhythm of this fight, but, like, again, it's very poorly written.
It feels like he had a list of moves they make in a combat scenario.
Yeah,
and
that's basically what this
and
is.
he just took the list and turned it into full sentences.
Oh
Well, they're
boy.
finally done with that. This customary every morning disturbance had been continuing ever since Tatsuya was a freshman in junior high, that October to be precise. After it ended, the temple grounds were once again quiet. The novices had all returned to their religious services, leaving the Shiba siblings and Yakumo alone in the front yard of the main temple. Here you are, Sensei. Tatsuya, would you like some as well? Oh, Miyuki, thank you. Give me a moment. Yakumo smiled and took a towel and a cup from Miyuki. Again, something they could have said before that would have made that a lot clearer. Like, what is she passing out to them? Is she passing something out to them? I don't know. But maybe they should have said so beforehand instead of saying so after. Like, this is not something. This is something that like builds up. The more I have to read this stupid way of writing, like it gets more and more infuriating. And I can't see like what the point is here. Tatsuya was sprawled out on the ground, trying to bring his violent breathing back under control. After raising a hand and replying to Miyuki, he managed to peel himself off the ground. Tatsuya, are you all right? He had sat up, but he was still on the ground. Yes, he was sitting on the ground. Of course, he was like. Miyuki knelt down next to him, worried, not being careful to not get her skirt dirty. Jesus Christ, it is a hideous sentence. And used the towel in her hand to wipe his dripping sweat. I'm fine, Yakumo's disagreeably warm stare that wasn't particularly bothering him. But Tatsuya pulled the towel from Miyuki's hand, and with a deep breath, he rallied his energy and stood up. Sorry for getting dirt on your skirt. Tatsuya's own sweats were a bit more than a little dirty. But Miyuki offered no words to point it out. This much is no problem at all, answered Miyuki with a smile. Instead of brushing off her skirt hem, she removed a long, thin portable terminal from her inside pocket. She fluidly typed a short number into the force feedback panel covering most of its surface. The CAD that Miyuki owned was a multi-purpose one made in the shape of a portable terminal. It is going to explain everything about Miyuki's fucking CAD right now.
Oh, gee.
It goes on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
really.
so excited. Let's
About
get
the
started.
cat?
It's half a page. You actually want me to read all this shit?
I do.
Come on, do
You
it.
actually want to hear this?
But
Yes.
what is Mahouka without the exposition?
Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what, Popka? Look at it this
What?
way. The people in the anime forums complain that we got content worth of at least 6 episodes. So wouldn't it be a shame to not read these 6 episodes worth of content here as well?
I mean, I think it would be a shame to read them. Like, let's be real. All right, so you want me to read this page and a half of completely unnecessary
I
information?
absolutely
Of
do.
course.
Yes.
That's what a light novel's all about.
It was more risky to have than the most popular multi-purpose CAD, which was made in the shape of a bracelet. The advantage to getting used to one that was that you could use it with one hand. It was the preferred model of higher-ranking magicians who did lots of field work, since they disliked both hands being occupied. The non-physical light drew a complex pattern in her right hand, which was then absorbed into the CAD and the magic activated. Modern magicians used a CAD in place of staves, grimoires, incantations, mudra, and didn't they already explain this in the last chapter?
Oh,
I
boy.
think they might have.
CAD is an electronic device born of magical engineering. CADs came loaded with a synthetic substance called a reaction stone that converted psionic signals to electrical ones and vice versa. It used the psion supplied by the magician to activate an electronically recorded magic circle or activation program. Activation programs were the blueprints for magic. Each program contained at least the same amount of information as the tedious incantations, complex symbols, and hastily assembled seal arrangements. I wish they could give me a fucking CAD to get through all this. Like, he's really going to call incantations tedious and then write all of this? Human flesh was a good conductor. Human flesh was a good conductor of psions, so when the CAD emitted the activation program, the magician would absorb it through their skin. Then it would be sent through their magic calculation region, a subconscious mental system that magicians possessed. This region of the brain would then construct a magic program. A body of... I think he's taking the idea of the brain as a computer, like, way too literally.
Oh, boy.
A body of information that would implement the magic, using the activation program as a base. In this way, a CAD instantly supplied all the information required to construct magic. So I tried not to make too much commentary on that because I didn't want it to be longer than it already was, but that was, like, incredibly painful to read. I feel, frankly, kind of insulted that all of this was even in this book. Anyway. From out of nowhere, an intangible cloud appeared and wrapped itself around Miyuki. It started at her skirt, then crawled down her black leggings all the way to the tips of her boots, which she'd removed the inline skate attachments from. Thank you. We really needed to know that. In addition, yeah, because I was totally thinking just now, like, wait, isn't she still wearing inline skates? In addition, a few particles bubbling forth from midair drifted to Tatsuya's back, then floated down his whole body. Once the fin... So this is a very visually minded author who really should have just learned to draw or something, or found someone to draw for him and made a comic instead of writing all this. Although that wouldn't have spared us the 7 paragraphs of information about what CADs are and what they do. Once the thin, faintly shining mist cleared, she was wearing an immaculate uniform, and his gym clothes were absolutely spotless. Would you like breakfast, Tatsuya? Didn't they already eat breakfast? Sensei, you can eat with us if you like. Miyuki said in a completely normal tone of voice. So, is she actually not thinking normally right now? All right. She lightly held up her back. Like, imagine if you just took a book and then after every single verb they say, like, in a completely normal way. There's an illustration of Miyuki. Yeah, they have all this description of what she did, and the next page an illustration of her doing it.
Oh,
Popka.
what?
I just
Well,
looked
there's
up
the illustration
Technobabble,
if you were wondering about.
and
It's not. It's just her standing and a bunch of like lights on around her. Like, why didn't they make this illustration a little bit more informative and just erase all this shit?
So there's this magic bracelet, you see.
Tatsuya was actually well aware that this level of magic was practically nothing for his little sister. Well, I don't really know what level of magic that is. It never explained how advanced or difficult that was to do, so whatever. Once they all sat down on the balcony, Tatsuya and Yakumo began filling their mouths with the sandwiches. Can't you just say eating the sandwiches? Miyuki was taking only one bite at a time since she was waiting on Tatsuya hand and foot, offering him tea and exchanging his dishes for him. Yeah. Yakumo watched them with a warm yet somehow obnoxious expression. He took a towel that one of his monk pupils, complete with shaved head, held out for him, and used it to clean his hands and mouth. Finally, he put his hands together and thanked Miyuki for the food, and murmured in a somewhat quiet and serious tone, I may not be able to match up with Tatsuya in terms of raw physical ability anymore. Okay, those were unmistakably words of praise. If the other novices had been there, they would have showered Tatsuya with unavoidable stares of envy. Yeah, just like everybody else. And the pupil waiting beside Yakumo was actually gazing at him with a mixture of resentment and jealousy, just like everybody else. Everybody's jealous of Tatsuya in this world.
Popka.
Except Erica,
I
apparently.
just looked up Technobabble on TV tropes, and believe it or not, Mahouka is not listed.
Well, it's technically magic, so... Miyuki's face was shining as if his praise had been directed at her, but Tatsuya's mind couldn't accept that simple commendation at face value. We have the same physical abilities, yet you're still pulverizing me with one hand tied behind your back, and I'm supposed to be happy, said Tatsuya. It was as much... If he really wants to beat this guy, he could just go home and shoot a nuke at his temple. Yakumo gave a tired smile. It's what we call only natural, Tatsuya. I am your master, and we sparred in my personal ring. You're still 15. My students would all run away if I fell behind a child like you. I think you should be a little more honest, Tatsuya. It isn't every day that Sensei gives you a compliment. I think you should stick out your chest and smile about it. That is presumably Miyuki speaking. Both Yakumo and Miyuki spoke with teasing tones. Well, I guess we'll never know. But Tatsuya wasn't so dense that he failed to grasp the admonishment from the former and the encouragement from the latter. What is that supposed... All right. His bitter grin lost his bitterness and turned into a plain old grin. I can't.
Why?
It still looked pretty bad if I did that. I can't even remember what they were talking about. Whatever. The people on their way to work or school boarded the small stationary train cars one by one in an orderly fashion. The term full train was basically extinct. Trains had remained the main form of public transportation, but these 100 years had changed the idea behind it. Nobody used the large train cars that could hold dozens of people anymore, save for the few long-distance high-speed trains where one seat needed to be reserved. Imagine if they had used the anime adaptation to take all of this information that nobody cares about and like conveyed it in a much faster, more efficient, more interesting way so that you would have a show that like effectively builds a coherent world instead of the most boring garbage you've ever seen in your life.
Got blood pressure.
So yeah, okay, we get it. It's very fancy futuristic trains. This goes on for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. Then the next, oh wait, 7, 8, 9,
Oh my.
9 paragraphs.
Nice.
One of them. Okay, so I'm gonna.
Let's get started.
All right. Trains had remained the main form of public transportation, but these 100 years had changed the idea behind it. Nobody used the large train cars that could hold dozens of people anymore, save for the few long-distance, high-speed trains where one seat needed to be reserved. Instead, two-person cars, called cabinets, small, linear, and government-regulated, had become the modern norm. The tracks supplied them with both propulsion and energy, so they were about half as big as an automobile meant for the same number of people. People were boarding the cabinets, lined up on the platform in order, starting with the lead one. Once inside, they scanned in their destinations using tickets and passes, and the cabinets proceeded onto the service tracks. Train lines were split into 3 tracks according to speed. An automatic traffic system controlled the distances between cars. It would also move you up the tracks from low speed to high speed. Then, as you approached your destination, it would shift you back down to the low-speed rails and deliver you to the platform. The system was similar to how cars change lanes on highways, but it was highly efficient due to advances in artificial neural networks securing the same throughput as dozens of larger cars linked together. In the case of mid or long distance intracity travel, your cabinet would be loaded into a trailer, which would run on a 4th faster track. Passengers would then be able to exit their cabinet, use the trailer's facilities, and relax. But they weren't used for commuting that often. Why not? That's just what you do when you're going on a long ride. Coincidental meetings on trains, like the kind in an old romance novel, never occurred with this modern train system. But in exchange for not being able to meet up with friends on the train ride, you wouldn't need to fear the risk of molestation. There were no security cameras or microphones within the cabinet. Because they were made so you couldn't leave them while they were running, seats were equipped with emergency dividers between them. More importantly, the consensus of society was that passengers' privacy was of utmost importance. Trains had become a private space, just like personal cars. So you could totally just, like...
Well, I don't know why any of this information is necessary.
Cabinets, equipped with measures to prevent more than one person boarding at the same time, worked on a system where you'd be penalized for riding with less than their capacity. You could ride a 2-seater by yourself, though if you had 2 or fewer people on a 4-seater, you'd be slapped with an additional tax. Tatsuya and Miyuki never used separate cars, so they boarded the commute train next to each other again today. Tatsuya had opened his terminal screen and was browsing the news when a hesitant voice began. Is this like Satomu Sato's pitch for, like, this is how I think the train system should be? Like, does he think this is going to be, like, a thing? I don't know, maybe it will be someday. Tatsuya, actually, He quickly brought his head up. It wasn't like his little sister to be so inarticulate. She said 3 words. Calm down. I got a call from those people last night. Those people? Oh, did Dad and the others get angry at you for some reason again? No,
That's
not
very articulate.
Yeah. Did they seem to at least have the good sense to choose the topic of congratulating their daughter on her enrollment? What?
I have no idea.
I assume it's about their parents because, you know, they have parent issues.
Oh, that's what you meant. So like I thought, Tatsuya, you didn't... Oh, that's what you meant. Nothing different here. At those words, her face clouded and she looked down. The next moment, she heard an angry grinding of teeth drift out of the long hair, concealing her expression. I see. I had a faint hope despite the circumstances, but you didn't even get a single text. Oh, so, yeah, Tatsuya's parents are, like, persecuting him. Just calm down, soothed Tatsuya, grabbing her hand. She was trembling with such emotion that she couldn't speak. And it's making her, like, really upset. The room temperature inside the car suddenly dropped below the regulated level. The heater activated, despite the season, and filled the silent cabin with the sound of hot air blowing. I apologize. I got out of sorts. Okay, so she was going to, like, freeze the car because she was so upset. After making sure her magic power was no longer running amok, Tatsuya let go of her hand. He lightly tapped on it a couple times, then exchanged glances with her and smiled, as though telling her it was nothing to get hung up on. I ignored Dad's order to help him at the company and decided to continue school instead. Of course, they can't congratulate me. You know Dad as well as I do. My own parents being so selfish and shameless, that just makes my blood boil. Anyway, if they wanted to separate you from me, common sense dictates that they first inform me of that and then our aunt, but they weren't even brave enough to do that. And apart from that, how much... There must be a more straightforward way to be explaining all this. And apart from that, how much must those people use you until they're satisfied? Does it not go without saying that 15-year-old children go to high school? The bit about needing to inform their aunt and such left him with a strong sense of unease. Tatsuya had no intention of leaving Miyuki alone just because someone ordered him to, but he didn't let that show. Instead, he produced a cynical smile, purposely exaggerated and theatrical. I can't imagine Tatsuya doing that. It's not commonly compulsory education, so it doesn't go without saying. Dad and Sayuri both try to use me because they acknowledge I'm an adult, right? If they're counting on me like that, I can't get mad at them. Is he an adult or is he a high school student? If you say so, Tatsuya, Miyuki nodded through their reluctance. Though her reluctance caused Tatsuya to heave a sigh. She didn't know exactly what the Four Leaves Technology Lab, the magical engineering device manufacturer their father was the head of R&D at, was making her do. Ending a sentence with a preposition is not... I mean, they didn't end the sentence, but they ended the clause with a preposition. She was under the false assumption that they were letting him do honest work as a side job. Wait, so her dad is like corrupt or something? All right. If she had found out that, I guess that's not surprising. If she had found out that he was really just being treated as a recovery tool for research materials, she might have actually frozen up the transportation system. That the commute train, ignorant of his misgivings, smoothly switched over to a lower speed lane. Well, that was very difficult to get anything out of. The 1E classroom was a disorderly mess as students began to arrive. The other classrooms were probably in a similar state of affairs. It looked like there were a lot of students who had met each other yesterday, and they had already formed small groups that were making light conversation here and there. He didn't have anybody he needed to go out of his way to greet. So he didn't feel like going out of his way to greet anybody. Like, is that a little bit clearer? Do you think that's a little bit clearer? So he decided to look for his terminal first. As he scanned the numbers on the desks, he unexpectedly heard his name called and looked up. Morning! The voice was that of Erica, bright and brimming with energy as usual. She's actually the best.
I know this chick. I actually recognize the name now.
Yeah. Good morning. Next to her, Mizuki was smiling at him, reserved but quite pleasant. They seemed to have become fast friends. Erica was leaning on Mizuki's desk and waving her hand. They'd probably been having a conversation before they spotted him. Yeah, probably. Tatsuya raised a hand and returned I don't know why it says that. Tatsuya raised a hand and returned their greeting, then made his way over to them. Shiba and Shibata. It was more alphabetical order than coincidence, but Tatsuya's seat was next to Mizuki's.
Okay.
Looks like we're next to each other again. Yes, that it does. I look forward to it. Mizuki replied with a smile, then next to her. Actually, above her would have been accurate as well. Erica made a dissatisfied face. What is with this, like, level of detail? I kind of feel left out. Her voice had sort of a teasing echo to it. Of course, Tatsuya wasn't cute enough to be ruffled by something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a weird thing. It seems like it would be really hard to leave you out of anything, Chiba. It seems like everything he says to her is passive-aggressive. Erica squinted unhappily at his dry voice and tone. This time it didn't entirely look like an act. What's that supposed to mean? I mean, you're an extremely social person, said Tatsuya, maintaining his prim facial expression even on the receiving end of Erica's glare. Instead, it was Erica who made a subtly regretful face. Shiba, you've actually got a bad character, don't you? Yes. Yes, God. Yes. How many people does he kill? After seeing Mizuki unable to suppress a smile out of the corner of his eye, Tatsuya placed his ID card on the terminal and began to review the information on it. There was everything from elective rules, disciplinary rules, and usage rules for equipment to events that went along with enrollment, a guide to free period activities, and the curriculum for the first semester. He scrolled through it quickly, hammering it into his head. Using only keyboard controls, he swiftly registered for courses. He had just brought his head up to take a breath when I bet Satomu Sato is like a master of keyboard shortcuts. He had just brought his head back up to take a breath. He was holding his breath to, like, concentrate on using keyboard shortcuts to register for classes. His eyes met with a male student in the seat in front of him, whose eyes were wide and staring at his hands. I don't mind you looking, but... Huh? Oh, sorry, it was just unusual. Couldn't take my eyes off it. Is it unusual? I think it is. These days, nobody uses keyboard input only. It's the first time I've seen someone do it. If you get used to it, this way is faster, though. Eye cursors and brainwave assistants are a little lacking in the accuracy department. That's just it. You're so fast. Couldn't you earn a living doing that? What, with Tatsuya as like a typist? No, I would probably only be able to get a part-time job with it. Is that so? Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Leonhard Saijo. My dad's a half and my mom's a quarter, so I look like a pure Japanese person on the outside, but my name is Western. My
That's
specialty
the
is...
actual description.
Yes,
Uh,
that's exactly what it says. My specialty is convergence-type hardening magic. I hope to get a job that involves physical activity in the future, like Which character is this? Is this the guy with the weird sword that, like, extends?
I think it is.
Okay. He wants to be a SWAT officer or a wilderness security officer. You could just call me Leo. It might seem odd, given the state of today's youth, that someone would have already decided on a course... Is Tsutomu Sato, like, giving a commentary on Japanese youth? It might seem odd, given the state of today's youth, that someone would have already decided on a course for his future before even enrolling in high school, it says. Is this his incredible social commentary? Like, spare me this shit, please.
Ah,
But magic high schools were different. The abilities, no, the very nature of magicians, in the making, were deeply tied to their path through life. So when Leo included his future aspirations in his self-introduction, Tatsuya didn't find it surprising. I'm Tatsuya Shiba. You can call me Tatsuya. Okay, Tatsuya, what kind of magic is your forte?
I really like
European
reading.
Chinese.
I really like it when Popka has to read Tatsuya's words.
I don't like Tatsuya's words. I don't have much in the way of practical skill, so I'm aiming to become a magic engineer. Oh yeah, you do look pretty smart. He looks very average. Magic engineer is short for magic... Magic engineers. The term magic engineer is short for magic engineering technician.
why?
Why are they explaining what a magic engineer is? Isn't that self-evident? This is two paragraphs. Magic engineers, short for magic engineering technicians, referred to the technical experts who manufactured, developed, and adjusted devices to supplement, amplify, and strengthen magic. Without tuning from an engineer, CADs, a now an essential tool for magicians, were worse than a dust-covered magical tome. Magic engineers were a step below magicians in terms of social standing, but the business world needed them more than normal magicians. The paychecks of first-rate magic engineers even exceeded those of first-rate magicians. That being the case, it wasn't unusual that students of magic who lacked practical skill would endeavor to become engineers, but... What was that? Shiba? You want to be a magic engineer? Tatsuya, who's this? Asked Leo, pointing a finger somewhat tentatively at Erica, who had stuck her neck in energetically as if she had gotten wind of a big scoop. Wow, did you just call me this and point your finger at me? You're so rude. So rude. You're a rude person. This is why guys like you aren't popular with girls. Whoa. What? You're the one being rude here. Your face might be a little easy on the eyes, but that doesn't mean you can run your mouth like that. Oh. Looks are important, you know, but I guess a guy who can't tell the difference between looking sloppy and looking wild wouldn't understand. And what's with that expression? They only stopped using it like a century ago. Nobody says it anymore. What?
Oh, shit.
Erica looked down at an angle with a composed sneer, while Leo was too dumbfounded to do much more than groan. What? Oh, that was a very bizarre exchange. Erica, please stop. You've said a little too much. Leo, you give it a rest too. The same goes for you, and I don't think you can out-talk her anyway. Tatsuya... Okay, so here's the thing. Like, who's speaking there? Presumably Tatsuya, right?
Right.
It's actually Tatsuya and Mizuki, but who would have known that? Because they should have said beforehand who was talking. It says Tatsuya and Mizuki each interposed themselves into the volatile air. They both turned their faces away but kept their eyes on each other. Both strong-willed, determined, and unyielding. Maybe these two are actually a good fit for each other, thought Tatsuya. Oh yeah, here's Tatsuya the matchmaker. Just wait till he puts Mizuki with that guy who says like, oh wow, if I had known about your powers a year ago, I totally would have forced myself on you.
I ship Tatsuya with that Chinese people.
The bell rang to signal the start of class, and the students, spread about wherever they pleased, returned to their seats. This part of the system had been the same for a century, but beyond that, there were differences. Each terminal that was still off automatically turned on, and the ones that were already booted up refreshed their windows. A message appeared on the screen in front of the classroom at the same time. Orientation will begin in 5 minutes, so please wait in your seats. If you haven't set your ID cards in your terminals yet, please do so immediately. The message was completely meaningless for Tatsuya. He was already at the point where he'd finished registering for his electives, and the online guidance was just a bore with too many visual effects bogging it down. Just really judgmental with this whole, like, oh, this whole interface for the student registration is just fucking bullshit. Just as he decided to skip the whole thing and search through the school data, something unexpected occurred. The main bell rang and the front door opened. It wasn't a student running late. It was a young woman, not in a school uniform, but a suit. She was pretty in her own way, though not on the level that everyone would say so without a hesitation. So, she's not too pretty. And she had a sort of charm about her. Like, why do we need to hear that? She went before the
Tatsuya
lectern,
doesn't care.
which had... Well, no, it never entered his mind. She went before the lectern, which had risen out of the floor, placed the large portable terminal she'd been carrying at her side atop it, and looked around the classroom. Tatsuya wasn't the only one stricken with surprise. The entire classroom was abuzz with confusion. At schools with online classes that used a lectern terminal, teachers didn't stand at the podium and teach. Classes were conducted across the terminal. Delivering messages to classrooms was even lower on the priority list, so schools never dispatched staff members to them. The staff controls in the classroom were used only when something out of the ordinary happened, at least in theory. Still, it went without saying that this woman was clearly a part of the faculty. I see there's nobody absent. Well then, everyone, congratulations on your enrollment. There were a few students lured in and responded with a bow. In fact, the Bale student he just met with a seat in front of him lowered his head and said thanks. But Tatsuya couldn't help but be confused at the woman's odd behavior. Your teacher came to congratulate you. It's a normal human behavior. You don't have to be so fucking shocked by it. First of all, she didn't need to physically look around to check attendance. The seating situation, we get it. They use the computer to monitor attendance. Anyway, who was she? He hadn't seen anything in the enrollment information about this school utilizing the anachronistic homeroom teacher system. Pleased to meet you. I'm it's a lady who came to talk to you. Don't be so fucking horrified. I'm Haruka Ono, one of the general counselors working at this school. We'll be here if you need to talk about anything, and if you need a counselor more suited to a certain field, this is our job as to introduce you to them. Come to think of it, there was something like that. Tatsuya had skimmed over a bit, since for him the entire idea of having someone to talk to your problems out with was non-existent. Yeah, like, who the fuck, ever needs to talk about their problems with anybody? Really, that's just fucking bullshit. Everybody should be like Tatsuya and just take all of this... All the shit anyone ever gives you without ever saying anything until they insult your little sister, of course, in which case you challenge them to a duel and then explain for 9 hours exactly how you beat them.
The true Japanese way.
The lady.
Let's see. There are a total of 16 general counselors in the offices. A man and woman form a pair, and one pair is assigned to each class. Mr. Yanagasawa and I are assigned to this one. She stopped there and manipulated the console and the lectern. The upper portion of a man who looked to be in his mid-30s appeared on the screen in front of the classroom, as well as on the displays in each desk. Pleased to meet you. I'm your other counselor, Yanagasawa. Miss Ono and I have been assigned to this class, so I look forward to working with all of you. Haruka, or Miss Ono, began to explain again with the counselor Yanagasawa still on the screen. Counseling can be conducted through the terminals like this, but we don't mind you coming in person to talk to us. All communications use quantum cryptography. Okay. Yeah, whatever.
I swear that came up on that random technobabble generator.
Quantum cryptography. Yeah, probably. And any results of counseling are stored in a standalone databank, so your privacy will never be invaded. As she spoke, she held up a book-shaped databank that Tatsuya had mistaken for a large portable terminal. We will do all we can to ensure that all of you are able to lead a fulfilling life here at school. She paused, and her super formal tone did a 180, becoming informal and gentle. With that said, I'm looking forward to seeing you more. He could feel the energy in the classroom draining. That was some pretty fantastic emotional control. She had manipulated their levels of nervousness, even factoring her own appearance into it. Despite her... Are people in Japan really that, whatever. Despite her youth, she appeared to be straight out of university. She seemed very experienced. If she were to do this in a one-on-one situation, they might end up talking about things they weren't planning to. This was an important quality for a counselor. But she could probably also make it as a spy. One worth being cautious around, thought Tatsuya. I guess this is the effect of working for the government like Tatsuya does, where he just thinks everybody's a spy. On the screen behind her, her older male colleague, looking more and more worried the longer he was left up there, gave a bow and the image shut off. If that hadn't happened, the impression he'd be giving would have been far stronger. Okay. Haruka cleared her throat and reconstructed a business-like smile, then continued to speak as if nothing had happened. Nothing had happened. What happened? The other guy, is that it? I'm going to start the guidance for the school's curriculum and establishments on your terminals. After that, you will register for your elective courses and orientation will be over. If there's anything you don't understand, please press the call button. Those of you who have already looked, this is exactly like sitting in a boring orientation ceremony. Like, it's something that you will all never remember because it's so boring and unnecessary that it's just like really, what is the point of this?
That's
Is
the
it
realism of
supposed
it.
to be like an accurate simulation of reality with quantum cryptography?
Yes. Herr Popka, once this chapter is over, I have something very special for you.
This chapter is not even close to being over.
Oh,
It's like,
Oh boy.
those who have already registered for their electives can feel free to leave the room if they wish. However, once guidance has begun, you will be unable to leave the classroom. So if anyone wants to do so, please leave the room now. And don't forget your ID cards when you go. A chair clattered as if waiting for those words. It wasn't Tatsuya. The one who stood up was a slender, high-strung young man. He sat a bit away from Tatsuya in the front row of the window. He bowed toward the lectern, then turned his back to the classroom and exited to the hallway. He left the classroom haughtily, appearing to act tough, not paying attention to the upturned gazes gathering on him from both sides. Who is this? It drew Tatsuya's interest, but only for a moment. Aside from Tatsuya, about half the class watched his back as he left, but their stares soon returned to the lectern. It didn't look like any of the others would leave early. It wasn't as if Tatsuya disliked the place so much that he'd do something conspicuous to get out of it. Just go. You can go. There's no reason for you to still be there. Just leave. He's like, I don't want to leave because I'm not so like emotional that I'm going to do something conspicuous to get out of here. Just leave if you don't want to be there. I mean, like, his supposed friends are there, but he clearly doesn't like them very much, so why is he even staying there? He looked back at his hands, stopped on the keyboard, and wondered what to browse to pass the time. Then suddenly he felt eyes on him and looked back up. Haruka was looking at him from the lectern. Even when their eyes met, she made no attempt to avert hers and smiled sweetly at him. What was that all about? He noticed it after that too. Haruka was smiling at him. Not the whole time though. She did it with short reserved glances so the other students wouldn't harbor suspicion, but it still created an air of excessive secrecy. He could say for sure that this was the first time they'd met. It was clearly too frequent to be merely a friendly smile, so Tatsuya tried stepping back through his memories to figure it out. That used up a lot of time, but that wasn't her trying to get me to relax, was it? It seemed more like something to unsettle me. And I don't think that was... Tatsuya is a paranoid motherfucker. He's fucking like Sherlock Holmes in this chapter and the first chapter, but it's because people are doing these innocuous things, and he's like, no, I need to figure out the secret motive behind it.
It's just a microcosm for Japan's xenophobia. This is the ideal.
As far as he could think, it was probably her being interested in Tatsuya for remaining in his seat, even though he had finished registering like the student who left had. But he still felt like it was a fairly confidential smile, to put it in a positive light. As he was puzzling over it, a voice addressed him from the seat in front of him. Tatsuya, what are you going to do until lunch? Leo was looking at him, straddling his chair with his hands over its back and resting his chin on it, almost as if it were his regular pose. Okay, it was the exact same way he'd done it last time. Eating lunch in the classroom was no longer a tradition in junior high schools and high schools. Information terminals were sensitive devices despite advances in waterproofing and dustproofing tech. If you accidentally spilled soup on one, things could end up a disastrous mess. Is this what they meant when they said there are accidents every year where students die?
Possibly.
Should he go to the cafeteria, to the courtyard, to the roof, to a club room, or should he just find any old place? It was more than an hour until the cafeteria opened. I had planned to stare at the catalog of information right here, but okay, I'll come with you. What the fuck is wrong with him? He's like, hey, Tatsuya, what are you going to do till lunch? I was just going to stare at this fucking screen. Just...
Oh yeah, Sushi's asking about the reading. Should we invite him now? Or?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Tell him to be quiet though, because he's reading.
Yeah, we don't want to disturb Popka's thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest.
If they continue bumping.
Leah's eyes, sparkling with fun, clouded with disappointment at what Tatsuya said. Why is that just okay? He smiled wryly at Leo's truly transparent expressions and nodded. Where should we go see then? Magic wasn't taught in public schools until after junior high school. Children with an aptitude for magic learned the basics at public cram school after regular school hours. At that stage, the children weren't judged based on how good their technique was. It was purely to further their potential. Whether or not they had the talent to walk the path of magic as a living was something decided by the students themselves and their parents or guardians. There were certain private schools that included magical education as an extracurricular activity, but magic went assiduously unnoted on students' grades. Serious magic education started at the high school level, and though First High was counted among the most difficult magic high schools to get into, this meant that there were many students who had advanced here from a normal junior high school. The upper-level magic-related courses would have contained classes those students had never seen before, just like any higher-level school that you go to, but whatever. Today and tomorrow, the school had built time into the day to let students observe the classrooms they'd be in. It was to relieve some of the worries of the new students unfamiliar with such courses. Want to go to the workshop? It took a really long time to get from like point A to point B here. Like Leo's like, hey Tatsuya, where do you want to go? Or Tatsuya said that, and then like three paragraphs afterwards, it's like, we want to go to the workshop. Tatsuya's question to Leo's response was this, not the arena. Of course, Tatsuya wants to go to the arena. Leo, yeah, he's going to fight this guy and just kill him for wasting his valuable time. Leo grinned in a satisfied way at the unexpected inquiry. I guess I do come off that way, huh? Well, you're not wrong, but on average, the students here would be intelligent. They had gotten into this school in the first place, after all. But this young man was, how should he put it? Jesus Christ, Tatsuya, shut the fuck up. What an asshole. Like, everyone he meets, he just judges them. He's like, oh, Erica, you're extremely social. Like, you should probably calm down for a second. And Mizuki, he's like, I think you're being deceptive with your glasses. And then this kid, he's like, you don't want to go to the arena? He's like, no, I don't. I guess I give off that kind of aura. He's like, no, you just seem incredibly stupid. Yeah, this is exactly, it's like when he meets with a school nurse. He's like, excuse me, I think you need to change your clothes because it's too, like, promiscuous or whatever. How should he put it? He was brimming with energy. He seemed like the outdoor type or something. Frankly speaking, he came off like a rascal. It made him feel like he was more suited for going all out in the arena than fiddling with sensitive devices in the workshop, and Tatsuya probably wasn't the only one. But upon hearing the next thing Leo said, he acknowledged his false impression. Hard-hitting magic is the most efficient when you pair it with weapon techniques, after all. I want to at least be able to take care of my own weapons by myself. I see.
So I guess it's okay if you're a bit dumb as long as you're a militarist.
Oh, apparently. Leo's career of choice was policeman, a SWAT officer, a member of Wilderness Security Force. That is, they already said that. What? Oh, it's a typo. If things went as he hoped, it's not like, he would have plenty of, it says things went as he hoped. If things went as he hoped, he would have plenty of opportunities to use simple shields and weapons like batons, axes, and hatchets. Yeah, he'd get to go out in the field and just chop people up with axes. Like, that's what it's saying here. It's like, oh yeah, he wants to be a police officer. Won't it be great that he'll have plenty of opportunities to fuck people up with axes?
Fantastic.
Those tools had good affinity with hardening magic, and its effectiveness varied greatly depending on whether you were familiar with the properties of the material making up the weapons. His classmates seemed to have a far more grounded and realistic idea of his own aptitude and course for the future than he let on. So Tatsuya's like, I shouldn't have judged this guy just like I do everybody.
Yeah, because he clearly is a psychopath.
Yeah, because
and wants to kill people.
like he's like, oh wow, this guy might actually be useful for like chopping up Chinese people next year. As the two of them finished their conversation, a shy request to join them came from the seat next to him. If you're going to see the workshop, may I go with you? Shibata, you want to go there too? Erica interrupted from past Mizuki's head. Yes, I want to be a magic engineer as well. Ah, well that kind of makes sense. In the same way he had before, Leo gave an affected grimace. You're more the type to do physical labor, aren't you? Just go to the arena or something. Why would he say that? Okay. I don't want to hear that from you, you wild animal. Tit for tat. Okay. What was that? You were thinking of that one all day long, weren't you? Well, now he's insulting Erica's intelligence. They always seem to get into arguments right away. Stop it, you two. You just met today. I think they're actually rather compatible, thought Tatsuya. They're not. They're insulting each other. They meet each other and they immediately piss each other off, and then they just scream at each other and insult each other and like say like, "Oh, you're an idiot. You're more suited for like." And Tatsuya's like, "I think they're compatible."
Oh, that's just your understanding.
Well,
of
that's his
friendship.
way of reading it, of course. Always on the ball.
Ha! I bet we were bitter enemies in a past life. Yeah, you were a bear wrecking the farmlands or something, and I was the hunter they hired to exterminate you.
The
Yeah,
fuck?
they're so compatible.
This is the compatible people.
The fuck? Just
Suzuki
what
had
the
been
fuck?
meekly keeping out of it, but she had finally given up on this ending anytime soon. So she attempted a forced change of course. Let's get going. We'll run out of time. Tatsuya took advantage of the opportunity without a moment's delay. You're right. If we don't go soon, we'll be the last ones left in the classroom. Interrupted by their fast talking, Leo and Erica glared at each other in displeasure, then immediately both turned away. They belonged together.
The fuck?
Even on the second day, people were already solidifying into groups to move around in together. Maybe this was a quick adjustment, or maybe it was hasty, and perhaps it was only natural. Tatsuya didn't know. Tatsuya doesn't know how normal human social interactions work. Let's see. But when he thought about whether he'd drawn a good lot, he decided he had, in all probability. Erica and Leo were both bright and outgoing, and Mizuki, while shy, seemed to have an easygoing personality. He was aware... Well, because he's clearly a great judge of character, fucking Tatsuya. He was aware of his tendency to sink into cynicism, so he considered himself lucky that they had been the first friends he made at high school. But in all probability didn't mean 100%. Those few percentage points that remained. I'm very glad at everything that they aren't obsequious, but can't they do something about this? Wondered Tatsuya calmly. What is he talking about? Again, they're like kind of diving into the situation without
They
explaining
should
it.
stop having emotions. It's confusing him.
Tatsuya. On the other hand, Miyuki was grabbing Tatsuya's uniform cuff with her fingers, looking up at his face with a mixture of perplexity and unease. Don't apologize for anything, Miyuki. This isn't even 0.1% your fault. What happened? Yes, but will you stop them? That would probably have the opposite effect. Yes, perhaps, but I was still rather surprised. Erica seemed the type, but to think Mizuki had that kind of personality as well. Are they fighting? Watching over them from a few steps away, or maybe just watching them, the siblings' eyes reflected a group of new students, split into two, glaring at each other in a volatile atmosphere. One group was... Oh, this is the Course 2 students... the Course 2 students being discriminated against. Okay, wait a minute. So Tatsuya is like... Oh, I'm very glad that, I in all probability, my friends are okay, but, I have some doubt. And, it's because they're discriminated against by other people.
Well, if they were actually good people, they wouldn't be discriminated against. Obviously.
They don't deserve this shit. The first high cafeteria was rather large for a high school, but it would always get crowded at this time of year because the new students didn't know what was going on yet. But Tatsuya and the others, who had left their observation of an upper-level course early and come to the cafeteria, secured a 4-seat table without much trouble. It seated 4, but it was just 2 benches facing each other. You could... yeah, that's a lot of 4 person. You could probably fit 3 slender female students on one side. Okay.
Thanks.
Lady.
That was really important. I mean... You know, when they were about halfway done with their food, Leo had already finished. Miyuki arrived in the cafeteria, surrounded by male and female classmates, saw Tatsuya, and hurried over to him. That was the first bit of trouble, that Miyuki tried to eat with him. She wasn't an eccentric who refused to mingle with her classmates, but in her mind, Tatsuya was the top priority. Only one other person could sit at this table. Miyuki didn't give her choice between her classmates or Tatsuya a second thought. But of course her classmates, especially the male ones, wanted to share a table with her. Oh. At first, they use indirect expressions like, there's no room, or I don't want to bother them. Upon seeing how unexpectedly strongly fixated Miyuki was on this, some ended up saying things like, we shouldn't share a table with Course 2 students, or we should make a distinction between Course 1 and Course 2 students. Yeah, just discriminate. Okay, I remember when this show came out, and it was on Mal, and this discrimination was happening even before episode 5, which is probably one of the lowest points in the history of anime. So, and I'm complaining, why are they discriminating? This is not good. What's the point of this show? that discrimination is bad. Like, this discrimination is completely unreasonable. The school's not doing anything about it. You get to episode 5 and the lesson is just wait for the powerful people by the grace of, by their generosity to just magnanimously hand you down, like, freedom from discrimination.
Yes.
And it's like, and the people in the malforms were like, hey, the school already has rules saying that, like, they're not allowed to discriminate, but they do it anyway, so there's nothing they can do about it. Like, what do you mean there's nothing they can do about it? They need to deal with this shit. They're just letting this happen all the time. And everybody in the comments was like, no, the school's not at fault. The school's fine. And I'm like, what? Like, really?
Yes.
Let's see. The second time had been an event during the observation of an upper-level course. Class 3A was having a test of practical skill in the long-range magic practice room, affectionately dubbed the shooting range. It was the class the student council president was a member of. Students weren't necessarily picked for the student council based on grades, but she was considered the kind of genius at long-range precise magic that came around only once every 10 years. And she had brought enough trophies to first high to back that up. Well, Tatsuya is about to break that record. New students had heard the rumors about her as well, and they had seen her look more coquettish than these rumors at the entrance ceremony. All right. A large number of new students packed into the firing range to witness her skills, but only so many of them were able to observe it. When it came to it, amidst many Course 2 students giving their spots to Course 1 students, Tatsuya and the others boldly positioned themselves in the front row, so of course they were seen as obtrusive. The third time was now occurring, with Mizuki speaking in sharp tones just as they were leaving. Would you please just give up? Miyuki said she's going home with her brother. Strangers shouldn't be arguing with her about that. She was speaking to a student from Class 1A. It was one of the faces they'd seen in the cafeteria during lunch break. Basically, 2 of Miyuki's classmates had been clinging to her as she waited for Tatsuya after school, and one had taken issue with him. Incidentally, that classmate was a girl. Meanwhile, a male student, as one would expect, had remained silent at the beginning, probably because he was worried about stares from others, or maybe Miyuki's. But now their restraint, or perhaps his common sense, like, who was the subject of this sentence? Is it both of them, or is it just the dude? Their restraint, or perhaps his common sense, had left the area. I don't like that, no. Miyuki isn't treating you like nuisances, is she? If you wanted to go home with her, then you should just come along. What right do you have to tear the 2 of them apart? Unexpectedly, Mizuki was the first one to snap at the Course 1 student's irrational actions. She kept her demeanor that's not like discriminatory. She kept her demeanor polite, but her logic was merciless as she delivered her oratory without even get one step back from the bloom she was speaking to. Yes, at first it was logical, but tear us apart, murmured Tatsuya. He got the feeling that something was decidedly off about that. Well, Mizuki must be misunderstanding something, right? After hearing her brother, Miyuki started to get flustered for some reason. Miyuki, why are you panicking? No, I'm not flustered at all, am I? Why do you keep asking questions? She asked one question. Well, actually, it's a little confusing again. Like, I can't really tell who's talking. But, I mean, okay, like, this girl's standing up for you, and Tatsuya's like, I don't like the way she talks. Glancing at the siblings, who were central to this trouble as they were moving into a rather confusing situation, their extremely considerate friends were getting more and more heated up. We have something to talk to her about. That was the male classmate number 1 of Miyuki's. That's right. I'm sorry, Mr. Shiba. We just need to borrow her for a bit. That was the female classmate number 1 of Miyuki's. What the fuck does that mean?
Wait, what?
I don't understand what that. I don't know. I really don't.
They're all their relations to Miyuki.
Yeah, like these people they don't even matter enough to have names, but it has to like designate who they are.
Wait, are there actual numbers?
It says the word number and then the word 1.
Wow.
Leo
Okay.
burst out laughing at their selfish complaints. Ha! Do you think during your free period, do that during your free period? They put time aside for stuff like that, you know. Erica put on her best sarcastic face and tone and followed up. Why don't you get the person's consent beforehand if you had something to talk to them about? You can't just ignore Miyuki's wishes and have a big discussion with her. Those are the rules. You're in high school now. You know that, right? Are those actually the rules? Like the rules, like Like the rules, like if you
Whatever.
want to talk to someone, you have to get like them to sign a fucking contract or something. Like,
Jeez.
you know, you like, but like,
Like
I mean,
Ayn
like,
Rand.
those are the rules. Like in real, like just like in general interaction, you don't like if someone doesn't want to talk to you, then just shut the fuck up. But like, then again, it doesn't really matter what the school's rules are because they don't enforce them. They don't like do anything against the horrific discrimination that happens in this school. Let's see. Erica's words and attitude were meant to make them angry. It did just that. The male student number one. Male student number one. Why is he male student number one? There's a male student and a female student, and there's not another male student. Like, so why is he number one?
This is grand.
Shut up. People from other classes, and weeds at that, shouldn't be messing with us blooms. School rules forbade the usage of the term weed on the grounds that it was discriminatory. So, like, why do they have to defend the school? Is it because like it's like part of the Japanese military or something? Like, can't they just decide that the school is wrong here?
No.
It was a rule in name more than reality, but it still wasn't a term to be used in a situation where this many people were listening. The one who responded to that outburst head-on was, and this was not necessarily a surprise, Mizuki. Aren't we all new students? How much better do you blooms think you are at this point in time anyway? She wasn't raising her voice, but still strangely reverberated through the schoolyard. Uh-oh, this isn't good, Tatsuya thought aloud as a mumble. It was drowned out by the course... That was a really weird sentence. It was drowned out by the course one student's stifled voice, and only Miyuki, who was next to him, heard it. If you want to know, I'll show you how much better we are. Mizuki's claim was correct, based on the rules of the school, but at the same time, it was, in a way, rejecting the school's system. She said that because they're all new students, like they haven't been trained yet, that they're probably not that different in skill level, and yet this is somehow like a horrific violation, not horrific, it's not portraying it as, it's a violation of the school's rules to say that the Course 2 students could possibly be as good as the Course 1 students. Ha! That's funny. Come on, give us a lesson, Leo called out provocatively upon hearing the Course 1 student's words, which could be taken either as a threat or an ultimatum. I mean, it's both, isn't it? The situation had already reached a point where nothing could be done, so it didn't do any good to mention it now, but he and Erica were in complete tit-for-tat mode. Right. Mizuki had the truth on her side. They knew it too. That's why those who lived comfortably within the current system would respond emotionally.
Whatever.
But like Mahouka does not ultimately attack this system. Like right now it's saying like, oh yeah, they live comfortably in the system, but Mizuki had the truth on her side. Like, but the school's actual system is like not flawed. Like it's constantly equivocating. Like, you know, oh, the school doesn't allow the use of the term weed. And like, oh, well, technically Miyuki was like, especially before the speech, when like the Course 2 students had like a whole civil disobedience thing going on. And then the student council president was like, they brought no new ideas to the table. Like they shouldn't have done that because they broke school rules. It's is Ducat in the call? Can you hear me?
Yeah, he can hear you.
Yeah.
All right, it's chapter 2.
Oh, okay. You know what, Popka? Wait a minute. I have something to read for you as well. Let me just grab this. Okay. Are you ready, Popka?
All right.
Legend of the Galactic Heroes, Volume 1. No. Prologue. An outline of the history of the galaxy. Well, that's enough for now. Read the chapter and you get 2 more sentences.
What a tease.
What was the guy who started the Free Planets Alliance?
Let me check.
Ale something. Ale Heinesen.
Oh no.
And
Yeah,
who is he?
Heinz
Who is he
first
running
one.
away from? Rudolf von something.
It's the NCO Rudolf von Goldenbaum,
Right, Goldenbaum.
but I think you meant the second one because Heinesen died on the way.
No. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, the capital planet is named after him, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But
You see, that's more interesting than how a fucking CAD works.
Continue.
even if there was a clear breach of the rules here, unless it came from Mizuki's side, most people would probably pretend they didn't see it. So in other words, there is discrimination. Even if it wasn't only a breach of school rules, but against the law. Then I'll show you. The only students permitted to carry their CADs inside the school were the student council members and members of certain clubs. Yeah, we know. Usage of magic outside of school was strictly controlled by the law. However, possessing a CAD outside of school wasn't forbidden. There would be no point. CADs were currently an essential item for magicians, but they were not absolutely necessary to perform magic. One could use magic without a CAD, so just owning one wasn't against the law. Because of this, the school made students possessing CADs leave them in the office when classes began and come to get them when they left school. Also, because of this, students having CADs when going home from school wasn't really that strange. A specialized type, I don't know what they're talking about, but pointing one at another student was not a normal situation. In fact, it was an emergency, especially if the CAD being pointed was a specialized type on focusing on attack power. So this student is just packing a heat all the time. CADs were split into two categories, multi-purpose and special. Yeah, there's multi-purpose. Okay, yeah, any type of spell, and then specialized, which just, they specialize the magic. So this dude is it says the gun. He has a pistol-shaped specialized CAD, and he's holding the barrel in Leo's face. His skill at drawing his CAD, the speed at which he aimed, were both clearly the movements of a magic technician experienced in the ways of battle. What has this kid been doing his whole life? Much of magic depended on innate talent. This meant that at the same time, a lot of magic depended on your lineage. If you were a Course 1 student who had enrolled with excellent grades, then even if you hadn't received any magical education, you were more than likely to have received real combat experience from helping parents, family, businesses, and relatives. What are they... Tatsuya. Before Miyuki had finished calling out, Tatsuya had already stuck out his right hand. He reached out, though his hand wouldn't reach her from this distance. Did the action mean something, or was it a pointless reflex created outside the realm of conscious thought? Whatever it was, here and now, it didn't have any effect because... Yeah, alright, it's just a scream. The one who shrieked was the Course 1 student jabbing the gun in Leo's face. His pistol-shaped CAD had been sent flying out of his hand. And before his eyes was Erica, smiling, having whipped out an extending police baton from somewhere. Okay. There was no lingering waver or panic in her grin, but he'd known from the start there had been none of that, just by seeing her skillful alertness, which had almost given away her personality. If the same thing happened 100 more times, Erica would without a doubt smack the CAD out of the Course 1 student's hand with her baton every single time. He could clearly see that ability in her. At this distance, whoever moves their body first is the fastest. Yes, but you were totally trying to hit my hand too, weren't you? He's whining about like, oh, I was about to shoot you in the face, but you hit me. No sooner had Erica let down their guard than she had returned to her non-serious demeanor and began to explain it proudly to him. Answering her was Leo, who had pulled his hand, which was about to grab the CAD away at the last moment. Oh no, I wouldn't do anything like that. Erica flashed a smile that might have been evasive, as though she might have instead put the back of her hand holding the baton into her mouth and gone, oh ho 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 ho. All right. I don't really, whatever.
What?
This is very, metaphorical. All right. Leo's patience with her was wearing extremely thin. You're not fooling anyone with that dumb grin. Why is Leo mad? She just stopped the dude from shooting him in the face. I'm serious. I can tell whether or not someone can dodge based on how they carry themselves. You may look like an idiot, but you seem like you have skill. You're making fun of me, aren't you? You're making a complete fool out of me, aren't you? Whoa.
What the fuck?
I don't even know who's talking right now. Well, I did just say you look like an idiot, didn't I? Okay, it's Leo and Erica fighting. Yeah, they're so compatible.
So compatible.
Forgetting about the enemy in front of them, the two of them went back and forth loudly, like a comedy routine. Tatsuya, Miyuki, and everybody else around were too amazed to say much. Miyuki's classmate was the one who snapped out of it first and faced them. It wasn't the male student who had the specialized device knocked out of his hand. It was the female... Yeah, I figured. It was the female student behind him whose fingers flew over her multi-purpose bracelet CAD. The systems inside sprang to life, and an activation program began to expand. Activation programs were the... They already had this sentence in this chapter. Activation programs are the blueprints for magic. Do you remember that? That wasn't very long ago that I had to read that fucking 9-paragraph treatise on activation programs.
Do it again.
Activation programs were the blueprints for magic. The programming within directly defined how to formulate magic programs. Once it was finished, expanding the activation program would then lead to... is this actually a copy-paste from that?
Wow.
This is like a paragraph of copy-paste. Or no, it's not. It's not a copy paste, but it is two paragraphs of the exact same. It's almost a copy paste. It is almost verbatim. Like,
I'm speechless.
This is great.
listen to this. Like, and you remember the last one, right? Like, I had to read that shit. It's explaining how CADs work, right?
To a
Okay.
degree.
So listen to this. Activation programs were the blueprints for magic. The programming within directly defined how to formulate magic programs. Once it was finished expanding the activation program, it would then read it into the user's magic calculation region, an unconscious location in the brain. It would input the values for the variables that denoted coordinates, output, and duration. Finally, it would build up the scions and the magic program according to the process described in the activation program. The calculation region of the person's subconscious would construct the magic program and transfer it through a route between their lowest level of consciousness and highest level of unconsciousness. What? Then the magic program projected from the gate existing between consciousness and unconsciousness into the external world of information. Thus would the magic program interfere with the projection's target and information bodies incident to events. In modern magic, these were referred to as eidos, from a Greek philosophy term, and
Whatever.
temporarily overwrite the target's information. Okay, so like, what was that? They spent a page and a half earlier in this chapter explaining how CADs and activation programs work. And they come back with this. This is 90% exactly the same.
Well,
Plus you're bad.
I'm sure you didn't understand it.
So they needed to say it twice.
This is practically
Information
brainwashing in
accompanies
itself.
Information accompanied events. If you overwrote the information, you could overwrite the event. The state of events described in psionic information bodies would temporarily alter the event in the real world. This was the magical system that made use of CADs. That is just, like, drivel. Like, that doesn't mean anything. The speed at which psion information bodies were... Oh, it's still going! The speed at which psion information bodies were constructed... They're about to get killed by this student. This lady's about to fuck them up. They're going through all this. The speed at which psion information bodies was constructed was the user's magical throughput. The scale at which the information bodies could be formulated was the user's magical capacity. The intensity at which the magical program overrode the eidos was the user's influence. Currently, the three of these together were referred to as one's magical power. The activation programs that were the blueprints of magic were a type of psionic information body as well. Really? The activation programs that were the blueprints of magic were a type of psionic information body as well. However, they themselves couldn't affect change in events. The CADs would convert the scions, inject it. Yeah. You said that earlier on this page.
Just goes on.
Broadly speaking, this was the function of a CAD. With the psionic information body, the activation. Supplied from the CAD as a base, the magician would construct a psionic information body, the magic program, to overwrite events. Many specialized types were shaped like guns. The advantage to this was that they had an alignment support system on the part corresponding to the gun barrel. This system would embed coordinate information... When do they stop talking about this? All right, there's still like 2 paragraphs left. System would embed coordinate information into the activation program when it was expanded. In doing so, I'm going to, like... From the magician to the CAD, and from the CAD to the magician. Psionic flow is obstructed. Any magic using the CAD would cease to function. For example, if you hit it with a clump of scions from the outside while the activation program was being deployed or read, the psionic pattern constructing...
Oh.
I'm crying. I'm
My
crying.
brain's getting fried.
Wow, that was amazing.
Where is this going?
Who knows? Eating. Holy God.
I totally forgot there was even a battle going on.
I'm skipping this whole paragraph. All right? I'm not doing it.
Oh man. Wow,
Stop
that was
this at once.
something.
Attacking another person with magic outside of self-defensive purposes is not only against school rules, but a criminal act. Yeah. shouldn't have expected it to be more exciting. The activation program being expanded by the female student's cat had been blown apart by a psionic bullet, forming scions themselves. Fuck!
Scions everywhere.
Okay.
I need to catch my breath.
In summary,
Coming back.
the student council president stopped the course 1 student from using a magic spell by shooting a psionic bullet.
Okay.
Phew. Oh,
Now,
Shit. Holy shit.
okay. I think I'm okay now.
the eyes of those who used magic saw the light of energized scions, and it was obviously far larger in scale than the light given off by the student council president is like glowing with her godlike like glory right now. She's like a god. She's just wrapped in light for her benevolence. Yeah, this is before she says that the people who are discriminated against are responsible for themselves for not standing up for themselves, that they deserve to be discriminated against. You're all from 1A and 1E, right? I'll listen to what you have to say. Come with me. Yeah, see, she's like just... The one who gave the order in a cold, well, it had to be, and hard voice was the female student standing next to Mayumi. Oh, I forgot about this girl.
Shit.
According to the student introductions, she was the head of the disciplinary committee, a senior named Mari Watanabe. Mari's cat has already finished expanding an activation program. It was easy to... Yeah. So this is in the present tense. It says her cat has already finished expanding an activation program. And then in the next sentence is in the past tense. It was easy to imagine that if they showed signs of resistance, she would use force instantly.
What does it even mean?
Leo, Mizuki, and Miyuki's classmates all stiffened without a word. It wasn't that they couldn't move out of rebelliousness, but that they were overawed. They're just awed by her like magnanimousness. Like they're so perfect. And like, yeah, this is when they're gonna come forward in the 5th episode and be like, yes, all of you people who are discriminated against, like maybe you just weren't good enough. And like anybody, all of you who were being like horribly bullied every day and decided that you needed to sit in with the student council until the school decided to change its fucking policies that it didn't enforce. All of you are to blame. All of you are at fault for trying not to suffer every single day of your life. But she is literally glowing right now.
I love my life.
Thank you for blessing me, my lord.
Popka, how much longer does this chapter have?
5 pages.
Okay, almost there.
Almost.
Wait, are we only doing one chapter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
we let our
that's a lot.
horseplay go too far. Horseplay? Yes, the Murasaki family is famous for its quick drawing, so I wanted him to show us. Tatsuya is defending the guy who's going to shoot Leo in the face right now. He's telling the disciplinary committee, like, please don't discipline this person for discriminating against other students and threatening them with violence. Like, is this right? Is this okay?
The Ubermensch, they're coming.
Oh.
The male student who had aimed his cat at Leo, his eyes widened in astonishment. How about, like, whatever. As the other freshman looked on, speechless now for a different reason, Mari glanced between the baton in Erica's hand and the gun-shaped device that had fallen to the ground. She turned her gaze on the boy and girl who had attempted to use their cats in an illegal way. They broke the law! It wasn't just school rules and, like, being an asshole. They broke the law. This should be in prison. And Tatsuya's like, oh no, it's fine. Mari glanced between the baton in Erica's hand and the gun-shaped device that had fallen to the ground. She
Not
turned her gaze on the
equal.
boy and girl who had attempted to use their cats in a legal way, and after seeing them start to tremble, she shot a cold smile at Tatsuya. Then after that, why did the girl from 1A execute an attack magic? She was probably surprised. She's able to execute activation processes out of pure conditioned reflex. That's, of course, one student. That doesn't... Whatever. Your friends were about to be attacked by magic. Are you still going to claim that this was just horseplay? You say attack, but she was actually planning to activate a bright magic flash to distract us. And it wasn't high enough level to cause blindness or impair our eyesight permanently anyway. That doesn't make it okay. Everyone gasped again. Her scornful smile turned into an expression of astonishment. Impressive. You seem to be able to read and understand expanded activation programs. So he could be lying right now, and they wouldn't even know. Because nobody else can do this. Right? Like, he can read the activation programs, but nobody else can. He's probably... In fact, I bet he is lying.
You question your god.
I don't know if I can actually keep reading this, because right after it says... So he says, like, you know, I read the activation, and so right after she says, you seem to be able to read and understand activation programs. Do you know what it says? Do you know what the next sentence is?
Hmm?
It says activation programs were vast clumps of data for constructing magic programs.
Oh, God. Activation programs are magic.
Oh, keep on reading.
It's so tedious.
God.
Magicians could intuitively understand what sort of effects a magic program possessed. During the process where a magic program interferes with Eidos, a magician could read what sort of alteration the magic program is trying...
I'm gonna piss myself.
Oh, this is magnificent.
We are unworthy.
But the activation program was nothing more than a cluster of data on its own, an immense amount of data too. Even the magician who expanded it would only be able to semi-automatically process it unconsciously. Semi-automatically. Reading an activation program was like being able to visualize an image in your head by looking only at the digits made up of the image's... yes, Tatsuya, yeah, we know. Tatsuya has fucking amazing skills. My practical abilities are subpar, but analysis is a specialty of mine. That doesn't explain it. But Tatsuya summed up the abnormal ability as simply analysis, as if it didn't mean anything. And deception is apparently another. Yeah, this girl sees right through him. I hope she kills him right now. Mari's stare was somewhere between an appraisal and a glare. Only Miyuki stepped in front of her brother, as if to shield him. As my brother said, this really was just a minor misunderstanding. We deeply apologize for getting our upperclassmen involved. Oh my god. Without a scrap of artifice, she bowed directly to Mari, who, taken aback, averted her eyes. Mari, isn't that enough? Tatsuya, this was really just a practical observation, right? Since when are we on a first-name basis, thought Tatsuya. This is the student council president he's talking to. As before, he nodded his head in all earnestness, and Mayumi gave him a somehow... Earnestness? It's not earnest. It certainly isn't against the rules for students to teach one another. It is against the rules for them to use CADs, but whatever. But there are detailed restrictions on even using magic. This is something taught in class during the first semester. I believe it would be best for now to refrain from any self-study that involves activating magic. Mari, using carefully chosen words, said, "The president has spoken, so I won't question you this time. Make sure this doesn't happen again." Without sparing a glance at the group of students, who were bitter enemies, but all hastily straightening up and bowing to her together, Mari turned on her head. But she had taken only one step before she stopped and asked a question, her back still to them. "What is your name?" Only her head was facing... What? Oh. She, okay. Tatsuya Shiba from class 1E. I'll remember it. He was about to say "fine by me" out of reflex, but he caught himself and stopped himself from sighing. So that's like So Tomusato wanted there to be like a cool comeback line there, but he also wanted Tatsuya to keep being like this silent, reserved guy. So he's like, he thought the cool comeback line, but he didn't say it.
He's too cool for cool combat lines.
He's beyond merely speaking to them.
I don't consider this a debt, you know. After watching the officials disappear into the school building, the first person who made a violent move, in other words, the male student from class 1A, remember, male student number 1, this is, whom Tatsuya had ended up covering for, gave him a thorny stare. Well, I think you do owe him a debt, because, like, you would have, like, this wasn't just, like, a matter of, like, you're being a dick. Like this, you would be in jail right now if it wasn't for Tatsuya. Tatsuya sighed and looked behind him. All of his friends were making the same face too. Yeah, they're like, Tatsuya, why are you defending these people who are trying to kill us for no reason?
Because you're half Chinese.
Don't worry, I don't believe I gave you anything anyway. It wasn't my words that decided this, but Miyuki's good faith. Tatsuya may be good at talking people down, but he's not so good at persuading people, remarked Miyuki. You're not wrong. He returned her feigned stare of criticism with a dry smile. My name is Shun Morisaki. As you deduced, I'm part of the Morisaki family. The hostility in his face thinned a bit. His spirit perhaps dampened at the siblings' heartwarming, depending on how you looked at it, exchange. That's okay.
What?
Well, it wasn't anything so grandiose as a deduction. I've just seen an example video of it before. Oh, come to think of it, I might have seen that too, remarked Erica. And you just didn't remember it until now? You really are different from Tatsuya, said Leo. Look, she just said something that wasn't even addressed to him, and he, like, shuts her down. And Tatsuya thinks they're compatible. Don't sound so self-important. You're such an idiot that you tried to grab a broom with your bare hands. What? Okay, the broom being a cat, I guess, because some people call a cat a broom. That was from chapter 1. But
Right.
okay, so they feel the need to explain every single time somebody says the phrase activation program that an activation program is data that stores that like is used for constructing a spell, but they don't have to explain what a broom is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't sound so self-important. You're such an idiot that you tried to grab a broom with your bare hands. Your head is what's different. What was that? Why do you keep calling me an idiot? Like, yeah, why? Like, how can Tatsuya think they're compatible? Like, at every turn, she just insults this dude. It really was dangerous. Activation programs made by scions of other magicians could cause rejection in your magic calculation region. Oh, yeah. There, see? So couldn't they just kill each other by, like, firing up any random spell and just touching other people with their cads? There, see? Understand now? But you too, Erica. Even if you didn't directly touch it with your hands, it could still interfere with you. I'm fine. This thing's shielded. His friend's conversation behind him had begun to take on meaning. But Tatsuya... Yeah, because the only meaning that exists in this world is the discussion of scions and activation programs.
Yes.
But Tatsuya remained where he was, his eyes locked with Morisaki. I won't accept you, Tatsuya Shiba. Your sister should be with us. With a parting threat, he turned his back without waiting for a reply. Parting threats didn't need responses in the first place, since they were parting threats, but they did require the other person to hear them. Thank you for the insight.
Okay.
Yeah. Using my full name already, like that already, I see, he said, almost as though he were talking to himself, but purposely saying it loud enough for him to hear. Morisaki turned away, gave a start. A certain kind of stubbornness was probably what allowed him to keep going and leave without stopping. Next to him, Miyuki looked bewildered when he heard Tatsuya when she heard Tatsuya allow his muttering to be overheard. She was always fretting over this. For someone with such an introspective personality, he had a self-destructive recklessness. Yeah, like when he went to go to the Chinese mafia and just obliterate them all. He wouldn't hesitate to make enemies, and it was a big flaw in his character. Of course, she was more disconcerted about Morisaki's mistaken impression. What mistaken impression? He didn't really have an impression. He's just incredibly prejudiced. And, like, that's okay, apparently, according to Tatsuya. Tatsuya, shouldn't we go home soon? You're right. Leo, Chiba, Shibata, let's get going. In any case, the two of them shared their feeling of mutual exhaustion, nodded to each other and mental exhaustion, nodded to each other and decided to leave. The girl from 1A, who was about to make the situation worse, was standing in their way. They should have named these characters. That would have saved a lot of time. Well, honestly, yeah, female student number 1 is standing in their way. But he honestly didn't want to get any more involved with her today. He exchanged looks with Miyuki and passed her. Miyuki, trying to guess Tatsuya's feelings, was about to say, see you tomorrow, when the girl opened her mouth first. I'm Honoka Mitsui. I apologize for being rude earlier. So, who's this? Honoka Mitsui.
I don't recognize that name at all.
I just looked it up. That's Twin Tails girl with the big tits.
I do not remember. Is this the girl who wanted to touch the silver horn?
Yes.
All right, yeah, this is the girl who wants to touch Tatsuya's silver horn. I love, okay, yeah, so on the Mahouka wiki, the way it describes her is, Honoka is described as someone whose appearance would easily qualify within the boundaries of cuteness. Because this was written by a human, you know. The situation on the way back to the station was complicated. There were the 4 members from 1E, Tatsuya, Mizuki, Erika, and Leo, and those from 1A, Miyuki, Honoka, and the female student who had caught Honoka when she nearly fell over at Mayumi's appearance, a girl named Shizuku Kitayama. Who is that? Oh, that's the girl. That's like the quiet girl. That's the girl who was at the shooting, like the skeet shooting in the interschool Olympics, and like was and totally won in like a total blowout because Tatsuya calibrated her CAD. Next to Tatsuya was Miyuki, and Honoka had taken up her position on the other side of him for some reason. Then Tatsuya does the tuning on your assistant, Miyuki? Yes, letting my brother do it gives me the most peace of mind. It also means it's the best one in the entire world because Tatsuya is apparently the greatest engineer who ever lived. I just tweak it a bit though. Miyuki has high throughput, so it's not hard to do maintenance on her CAD. But still, you can't do that without knowing all the device's OS. Mizuki poked her face out from beside Miyuki and entered the conversation. Tatsuya's rather forced smile didn't seem to have much effect. I don't remember any forced smiles from Tatsuya in the show. You also need the skill to access the CAD's basic system. That's really something, remarked Leo. Tatsuya, maybe you could take a look at my broom too, piped in Erika. He turned around to look at the two of them. Erika had switched from calling him Shiba to calling him Tatsuya, declaring unilaterally that if he let Mitsui do that, she could too. I mean, why not? Like he's letting this girl, who is just like evil, really. Like she was about to attack them for no reason, just because she was prejudiced. And like she's calling him by his first name, and he has no complaints. But now Erika wants to do it, and he's like, "All right, I guess we're doing that now." Like, come on. Like at least Erika's not a terrible fucking person. But I mean, I guess all that really matters is, well, the social class.
Finally, you're getting it.
And as a truly generous bargaining point, she said that in exchange, he could just call her Erika. Of course, Mizuki requested the same deal, so it had already become an established fact. Tatsuya does not really make friends, does he? Like, does this sound like a human, like, characteristic? Like, why is he talking like this? So, okay, Tatsuya's been, like, self-deprecating this whole time. So I'm looking at this, wiki page of Tatsuya's powers and abilities. So he is a so-called supernatural power user, which means that he can use psions without a CAD, which means he's faster than everybody else in using magic. He's a so-called born specialized magician, which means that he can use 3 types of highly specialized magic just by will, kind of. Like, he can destroy areas, objects, or activation sequences. He can identify the design of any eidos or sequence and then break it down immediately. He can read the structural information of any object and restore it. So that's how he raises the dead and himself. So he was born with these powers. He doesn't attain them at some other period in the story. So right now, in this book, he's complaining about how useless he is. But he already has immortality and the ability to raise dead people.
Well, it's very situational. like when there are no dead people around, he's useless.
Yeah. Well, he also has the power to cancel anyone's magic.
Delightful.
Anyway, so Erika says, "Will you please look at my CAD?" He says, "No way. I'm not confident enough to mess around with such a unique CAD." Aha! You really are amazing, Tatsuya. It was difficult to know whether Tatsuya's reply was serious or just being modest, and Erika responded with unadulterated praise. What? You knew that this was a broom? Oh, so her police baton is her CAD. Wait a minute. So, that baton is a device. So he must have known that it was, but now he's like, wait, that's a CAD? Thanks for the normal it was Mizuki saying, yeah, this is the problem with this book. Like, you think it's Tatsuya saying that, but it's not. Anyway, where's the system in that anyway? From how it felt before, it's not completely hollow, right? Everything but the handle is totally hollow. It makes seal techniques more powerful. Hardening magic is your specialty, isn't it? Converting spells into geometric patterns, carving them onto a sensitive alloy, and injecting scions to activate it. Doesn't using stuff like that take it? These people are just riveting. Like, these people must all be so much fun to be around. Oh, look at you, such a specialist. But unfortunately, there's one more step. The only moment strength is needed at the very beginning and when you fire. If you channel the scions precisely... I'm not reading this. I'm sorry.
How much is left?
Like
Continue.
half a page.
Finish it.
Continue.
Half a page, but
Half
it's all...
a page.
It's all
right there.
like
Finish
this.
it. We're almost there.
Well, it's important, or
We're
else it wouldn't
almost
be
there.
in this Bible.
If you channel the scions precisely at those moments, it doesn't drain that much. It's the same principle as helm splitting. Erica, don't people refer to helm splitting as a superhuman technique? It's far more amazing than just having a lot of scions. Tatsuya and Miyuki are both amazing, but I guess Erica is amazing too. I wonder if normal people are the rarity at our school, remarked Miyuki spontaneously. I don't think there are any normal people at our school, said Shizuku Kitayama, who had been silent up till now, absent-mindedly, but she was right on the mark. With that, the meaningful base... Yeah, so it's all like incredibly talented students and like brainwashed Chinese terrorists. That's
And-
the end of chapter 2.
Okay, Popka, here's your reward. Okay. It was in AT 2801 that humanity declared the formation of the Galactic Federation and relocated the crux of its political authority from Terra, the third planet on the solar system, to Theoria, the second planet of the Aldebaran system. In the same year, humanity reset its calendar to Space Era 1 and began to expand inexorably into the inner reaches and frontiers of the galaxy.
At least Legend of the Galactic Heroes gets this stuff done early so that you can get into the story with the details already there.